What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Written and directed by Dean Fleischer-Camp and starring people like Jenny Slate, Dean Fleischer-Camp himself, and Isabella Rossellini, as well as people like Leslie Stahl, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On tells a very human story about a little shell with shoes on who goes on a search for his family. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was completely captivated. First of all, I saw that it was from A24, and pretty much anything that they touch or do always piques my interest. Even if I'm not a huge fan of the release, I'm typically just a fan of the filmmaking process. Even some of my least favorite films in the A24 slate have always been something I can at least praise or that I'm interested in simply because of the filmmaking elements. A movie I can more recently think of is something like Lamb, where I was not a fan of the characters or the story being told there, but the premise was so bizarre and the filmmaking done to bring this to life was so epic that I was fully on board. And then sometimes you have things like Hereditary or Everything Everywhere All at Once that are films that I thoroughly enjoy that also have those beautiful filmmaking elements and a great story, great characters, great mystery, all of that jazz. But here we are now with A24's latest release, or at least the one that is the most latest for me, which is Marcel the Shell with the Shoes On. And yeah, if I'm not mistaken, this is based on like internet videos that came out a long time ago that were kind of short and they were made to be this movie now. I went into this pretty much blind. I had only seen the trailers and it just seemed like a good, cute, fun, very different kind of unique time at the movies. And I'm happy to say that I really thoroughly enjoyed this film. With that said, I can't say it wasn't necessarily to the A24 quality that I was necessarily expecting. But, you know, like I mentioned, some of these movies sometimes I'm crazy about and some of them I'm not always so crazy about. And in the case of this, I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. And the best way I could describe this film is pleasant or precious. This is a movie that just is pleasant to watch. The theater I was in there with, the audience that I was with in the theater, everybody was having a good time. We were having a smile, a laugh. You can look around and listen around and hear people just having a good time with the character of Marcel, played by Jenny Slate. And this is probably easily my favorite performance from Jenny Slate because some of her performances, you know, can be a bit obnoxious. That's kind of what she's known for. But in the case of this movie, I didn't even hear Jenny Slate in the character, and I think that that's what really made Marcel feel so different and so lovable, is you have this character that has a very unique and specific voice, and I think that Jenny Slate did a fantastic job of bringing this innocent human character to life via this little shell with a googly eye and some little shoes attached to him. And the basic premise of this film, like I mentioned earlier, is that you have this little shell named Marcel. He's got his grandma, and they live in this home, and the people who used to live there no longer live there now, and they are renting out this home as an Airbnb. And over the course of years, you know, they've seen other people who have come through, but just now, Marcel has connected with the person who's staying there named Dean, who's also the guy who was part of the main writing team for this movie, as well as the director of the film. And him and Dean create this bond, and Dean chooses to film a documentary about Marcel, and he starts to upload videos to the internet, and people start to become fans of Marcel. And so at its core, this movie is really about family, but it just, you know, is a fun, whimsical ride in and of itself. It's so different and unique, the idea of a mockumentary style film that centers on this little inanimate object that has almost more humanity than a lot of humans. What's beautiful about his character is that he's this little character that's just so hopeful and naive and so lovable and loving that all he wants to do is care for those around him, find his family, and be a part of a community. And he wants nothing more than that. He won't do anything that will risk any sort of danger or any sort of threat to those he cares about. And at the end of the day, all he really truly cares about is a sense of community and a sense of family. And I really enjoyed that about this film. Definitely made me think on some levels. And it's just a cute film. I found myself really smiling from beginning to end. But with that said, there were some slow moments, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But yeah, the whole premise outside of, you know, this mockumentary is, you know, Marcel dealing with just having his grandma left and being on this hunt of trying to find where the rest of his family went after the original owners of their home moved away. It's a pretty straightforward premise that doesn't really go too crazy in terms of any twists and turns. It's a pretty satisfying ending that, is a pretty straightforward cookie cutter film in a lot of ways, but I think because of the stop motion animation, the overall gist of this film, and the very unique identity that really makes this film stand out from anything else that I've really ever seen, I think this movie is definitely worth a watch. With that said, I can totally see this movie being a little too cutesy for some. I really enjoyed it. I leaned into the cutesiness of it. I thought that Marcel, the character, was adorable, and there were so many little funny small one-liners that the character says that just really just warm your heart. There are so many heartwarming elements of this film, and because this character is so lovable and so likable and so nice and so sweet and so naive, there are just so many things that they say so many times that almost feels like the complete honesty of a young child, but also with the wisdom of an old man. And I thought that they really struck that balance very well when it came to the character of Marcel. I think, again, Jenny Slate did a fantastic job bringing this character to life, and I genuinely think it's my favorite performance that she's given, simply because, this was, for me, the one role I've seen her in where I really didn't hear or see her in that role. Marcel felt like a fully realized character. And by the end of the movie, what I can say is that I found myself thinking this was a little overly long. I think this is a really cute, gimmicky idea that could have been shortened down into a more compact story, a little bit something shorter, maybe a short film. But the fact that it is a feature-length film and all the hard work that went into a lot of the camera work, as well as the stop motion animation, I can't be upset with the fact that this was made into a feature film. I just found myself at times thinking this is being a little bit drawn out at times. I found that the funniest and cutest moments of the film were in the early part of the film, and even though I still enjoyed myself for the latter half of the film, I did have an element while watching it that I thought to myself, again, this just could have been shorter. It feels like we're just dragging out a little bit, and I found myself bored in, odd moments here or there. Beyond that, though, I did find this to be a good time. It's a film I recommend. It's got some great messages about family. It's also got a great message almost for younger people, too, that sometimes I think we can worry too much about our elders and our family above and those we have to care for, that we sometimes don't live ourselves. And I think that's something that we see in a lot of people, not only young individuals, like in the case of Marcel, but even older individuals sometimes in their 40s and 50s who feel the need to care for their parents or their grandparents so much so that they, don't go out there and live their own life. And I think that this film tackles that kind of premise pretty well, seeing it from both sides. An older individual who feels like they've lived their life and wants to see those that are younger than them, that they love, go out and live their lives, and those who are younger feeling like they need to use the strength and the youth that they have to care for those that don't necessarily have that same strength and youth anymore. So a big thanks to you guys for watching. This is a movie I'm definitely curious to hear what people have to say about. So if you have seen Marcel the Shell with shoes on, please do leave a comment down below. Did you like this movie? Did you not like this movie? The reason, by the way, that this review is coming to you now is because it did come out over some festivals over the course of time and then had a limited theatrical run and just recently expanded to more theaters. So it just came to my area. So I'm happy that it finally expanded to a bit of a wider release so that I could check this movie out. And I hope that it gets more eyes on this movie because there is a very unique energy and a lot went into the stop motion and the production of this film that makes it super unique and gives it its own identity, which I think is something we should be praising and going out to support in the modern filmmaking world. So big thanks to you guys for watching. Again, hit that like button, comment your thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.